Assalamu alaikum. We're back with Loving Muslim Marriage series. I'm Saba.
I'm Zeba.
And the topic we want to cover today is
Question: is it bad or wrong or haram in Islam to talk about sex? No. I'm going to base this on this, that Allah mentions sex in the Quran many times. There's even explicit verses where Allah talks about how man was created from a fluid that was ejected between the backbone and the ribs. So sex is referenced in the Quran many times. But for some reason, our broader conversation about sex is limited to the evils of zina, the evils of adultery, and they are. But we're not getting the other side of the conversation, because perhaps if more people had a way to find fulfillment in their marriages, we would have less adultery, it's kind of weird that it's one-sided. And there seems to be also this idea that good Muslims don't ever learn about sex for some reason.
Yes. Well, as you said, in Quran there are several references, and people who know Arabic or can understand Arabic, subhanAllah, they are very explicit terms. The term that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used for sex is actually, like in Arabic, dakhala, which means to enter. And there are verses about in Surah Baqarah that, reach out to your wife. And in this one particular verse in Surah Baqarah, there are two different terms are used for intimacy. In the first term, it's in reference to fondling, or sort of foreplaying, or even to some extent dirty talking, if you like, and then proceeding it with the intercourse itself.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole idea that that's whole about hush hush, or it's a taboo issue to talk about, or it's against the essence of Islam, or it's against shyness in Islam, it's all cultural. The one that we talked about, it's coming either from the Eastern culture, that it's bad, it's not encouraged, because it's a part of haya to not discuss these things. Whereas we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is talking about so openly in Quran. There are a number of texts from the hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he taught how to be intimate with your wife, and in very detailed way. So it's amazing, because I was just talking to a group of young girls, and when I mentioned this, that the Prophet ﷺ, for instance, discouraged his companions to perform early withdrawal, so like a mean of birth control, and one of the reasons he said that it's going to take away from your wife's pleasure. And they were shocked, because they said, we can't even use the word sex in the household, and you're telling us that the Prophet ﷺ talked about this issue so explicitly. So it's a baggage that we are carrying from our culture, which is damaging the whole Islamic concept of being open about natural issues, about natural things, which is taking away from us educating our children properly. And it is also damaging Muslim marriage, because when these issues are not taught, and when these issues are not discussed openly, people sort of shy away from talking about the problems.
Because if you can't talk about sex, then you can't talk about the problems. And if you can't talk about the problems, you never reach the solution. I mean, again, we have hadith in so much detail about the Prophet ﷺ, how he kissed his wives, the degree to which he was intimate, and when, and what he did when someone was on their menstrual cycle. So we have this in Islam. We have this in our marriages. We have this as a means of sanctuary. I mean, where we live in a culture that is saturated with sex. Sex appeal is used to sell bubble gum and toothpaste, and sex is part of children's cartoons. It's everywhere, except where it needs to be in the discussion. So it is not wrong to talk about sex. It is wrong to be immodest in our discussion. And the Prophet ﷺ did not violate any principle of haya when he narrated to his companions what he did and how. And his wives did not violate haya when they conveyed these hadith and said, the Prophet kissed me before he went to the masjid, or the Prophet used to do this, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not against haya to talk about sex. It is shameful, on the other hand, to pretend like there's no problem, or to pretend like having sex is a problem, when that is a huge part of having a healthy marriage. So again, this idea that talking about sex or having sex or wanting sex or acknowledging sex within the Islamic community at all, except to condemn people and turn people away from it, that's actually the real problem.
Right. I mean, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he said, you guarantee me two things and I will guarantee you paradise. What's between your jaw and, you know, what's between your legs. So when it comes to the issues of tongue, right, we go in so much detail. We talk about backbiting. We talk about, you know, what the good usage of our tongue and the bad usage of our tongue, and we educate, you know, our kids and ourselves so much, which comes into the category of ikhlaq and adab and manners, you know, how we communicate with people, and how we use our tongue. But when it comes to the issues of what's between your legs, it's that is always hushed. You know, we don't talk about private parts, or we don't talk about, you know, even the simple sex education. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about the desires that are generated by that organ. We don't talk about what's okay, what's not okay. So we put so much emphasis on one part, and we're not putting any emphasis on the other part, which is primarily, again, generated from cultural beliefs, and it has nothing to do with Islam. Right.
If we focus so much on don't commit zina, don't look at pornography, you know, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, these are all good. But if we don't talk about the functional alternative, we tell people how to get to marriage, but we don't tell people how to get to sexual satisfaction within marriage, then what happens is they go back to seeking satisfaction in the wrong way again, where the use and addiction to pornography is a Muslim problem too. And it's not just a problem with Muslims who are single. It's a problem with Muslims who are married. And it's not just a problem with Muslim men, it's also a problem with Muslim women who have not been given the tools to find the satisfaction that their marriage is supposed to be providing in the first place.
Right. And again, this whole concept that is widespread among Muslims that, you know, boys watch pornography, men watch pornography. Again, it's, you know, they're underestimating the sexual desires of women. Women watch pornography also. I have had married women come to me who are porn addicts. I have a lot of, you know, girls, non-married girls, who just break down and start crying about this whole fact that they are addicted to pornography. So it's not only a man thing, it's a woman thing also. I think it's a human thing. And it goes back, to believe that it can only be a temptation for men and not for women is again going into the whole idea that men are sexual and women are not sexual.
Yeah, which is kind of silly. I mean, and you know, we talk about pornography, and I'm sure people in their mind conceptualize pornography as, you know, dirty videos on the internet, but a lot of books are pornography.
Exactly.
They are simply safer or more socially acceptable. A lot of Muslim women will admit to reading and loving and getting really excited about 50 Shades of Grey.
Yes.
Or romance novels. That too is pornography. That too is an example of women seeking emotional and sexual fulfillment in a place other than the person that they're supposed to be getting it from.
Right.
Either because they can't talk about the lack of fulfillment, or they're told that they aren't entitled to that fulfillment in the first place. So talking about sex in Islam is not haram. It's important, and it is halal.
I think it's a must now, especially in our times.
Yes. Well,
both for girls and for boys equally.
Yes.